What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Oak Tree Football Channel, and the first ever episode of Turn Back the Clock. Now, more than ever, people are going back and watching their favorite TV shows or their favorite movies. But what about football games? There are no sports going on right now, so why don't we go back in time and watch some classic NFL games? This is a new series I'll be starting on the channel, where we turn back the clock and look at some of the best NFL games of all time. In this video, we're going to be going back to January 10th, 2010, which was the day of the NFC wildcard game where the 10-6 Arizona Cardinals played the 11-5 Green Bay Packers. This game is now known as the highest scoring game in playoff history. Before we get into the game, though, let's take a look at the team's rosters. First, let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. It was Aaron Rodgers' second season as the Packers' starting quarterback, and it was his first ever playoff game. The Packers had one 1,000-yard rusher in Ryan Grant, and they had two 1,000-yard receivers in Greg Jennings and Donald Driver. On yards per game, they had the sixth best offense in the NFL. On the defensive side of the ball, the Packers had one of the best safeties of all time in Charles Woodson, and even though he was 33 years old, he had a career high in interceptions with 9. On the other side of Woodson, safety Nick Collins had 6 interceptions. The whole team had a total of 30 interceptions that season, and they also forced 10 fumbles and recovered 9 of them. They led the league in turnovers that year and had one of the best defenses in the whole NFL. The Packers had played the Cardinals the week before this game and won 33-7. Even though the Packers were the wildcard team, the Packers were favorited to win the game. Now let's look at the Arizona Cardinals team. At the quarterback position, they had Super Bowl winner Kurt Warner, and they had two 1,000-yard receivers with Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Boldin. They had a young Calais Campbell who had 7 sacks, and they also had cornerback Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie who had 6 interceptions that season. Cardinals fans and players alike had been disappointed the past year, where they lost in the Super Bowl on a game-winning touchdown with only 35 seconds remaining. It was expected to be one of Kurt Warner's last seasons in the NFL, as he was 38 years old at the time. The Packers were big favorites in this game, as the Cardinals had a worse record and the Packers had just beat them a week before. Now let's finally get into the game. The game was on Sunday, January 10th, 2010 in Glendale, Arizona at the University of Phoenix Stadium. The Packers started with the ball at the 21-yard line because they couldn't return the kick farther than that. On the first play of the game, Aaron Rodgers dropped back, rolled out to his right, and threw a pass intended for tight end Donald Lee, but the pass was tipped and intercepted by Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, who was then tackled at the Packers' 40-yard line. It was a dream start for the Cardinals, but not so much for the Packers. After a few plays, Kurt Warner handed the ball off to running back Tim Hightower, who scored a 1-yard rushing touchdown. In less than 4 minutes, the Cardinals had a 7-point lead, and it would only get better. Exactly 1 minute after Hightower scored the touchdown, Aaron Rodgers threw a screen pass to wide receiver Donald Driver, who then had the ball ripped out of his hands, and it was picked up by the Cardinals. The Cardinals started the next drive at the 22-yard line, and on 2nd and 3, Kurt Warner found receiver Early Doucette for a 15-yard touchdown. In less than 7 minutes, the Cardinals had a 14-point lead, and skipping ahead to the end of the first quarter, they were already up 17-0. Even though only one quarter had been played, the game seemed to be all over already. At the start of the second quarter, Packers kicker Mason Crosby missed a 54-yard field goal to the right, and the Packers stayed with 0 points. A few minutes later, the Cardinals drove down the field and made it into the red zone, and it looked like they were going to score again. Then Kurt Warner threw a short pass to Larry Fitzgerald, who was hit by Charles Woodson. Fitzgerald lost the ball, and it was recovered by Clay Matthews. He had a big return, almost all the way to midfield. Finally, the defense that led the NFL in takeaways looked like most people would have expected them to. The Packers got the ball all the way to the 7-yard line, and on 2nd down, Rodgers was sacked back at the 11. On 3rd down, Rodgers' pass to the end zone was incomplete, but a pass interference penalty by Michael Adams gave the Packers a 1st and goal from the 1-yard line. On 1st and inches from the end zone, Rodgers kept the ball and dove into the end zone to give the Packers their first points of the game with 6 minutes and 52 seconds remaining in the half. The next drive, the Cardinals drove down the field, and on 2nd down and 13 from the 15-yard line, Kurt Warner found Early Doucette, who broke a tackle and scored his second touchdown of the game with 2 minutes and 16 seconds left in the second quarter. The Packers got the ball, and on 3rd down and 5, Rodgers was under pressure and he threw a deep ball to Jermichael Finley, who somehow caught it at the Cardinals' 26-yard line. There were flags on the field, but they were for defensive pass interference, so the play stood. Rodgers then completed to Finley again, and it was 1st and goal from the 9-yard line for the Packers. The Packers couldn't get into the end zone, so with 4 seconds left in the half, Mason Crosby kicked a chip shot field goal to make the score 24-10 at halftime. The Cardinals got the ball to start the second half, and they drove down the field once again. They had a 1st and 10 from the 33-yard line, and on the play, safety Charles Woodson slipped while he was covering Larry Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald ended up wide open, and he caught the pass and ran it in for a touchdown. With just over 11 minutes in the third quarter, the Cardinals had a 21-point lead. The Packers were heating up on offense, but on defense, they just couldn't stop the Cardinals' offense. The next drive, the Packers got the ball to the 38-yard line. Rodgers found receiver Greg Jennings, who got a 1st down, but then slipped and fell over. He wasn't touched, though, so he got up and ran it all the way to the Cardinals' 3-yard line. They failed to get into the end zone on 1st and 2nd down, but on 3rd down, Rodgers found Greg Jennings again, who made a one-handed grab and made it a 2-score game. The Cardinals were ready to return the kickoff, but out of nowhere, the Packers decided to go for an onside kick. With no Cardinals players close to the ball, they easily recovered, and they started the next drive from their own 43-yard line. They got it down to 4th and 1, and instead of punting, they decided to try and pick up the 1st down. They handed it off to longtime running back Amon Green, who picked up the 1st down. A few plays later, the Packers got to the 11-yard line, and Aaron Rodgers found Jordan Nelson, who scored a touchdown. The Packers made the extra point, and with 4:07 left in the third quarter, the Cardinals were up 31-24. After the Packers did a normal kickoff to the Cardinals, on 1st down from the 42-yard line, Kurt Warner handed it off to running back Beanie Wells, who took it 37 yards and was brought down at the Packers' 21-yard line. After a penalty, the Cardinals had 1st and 5 from the 16-yard line, and Kurt Warner found Larry Fitzgerald in the end zone, who scored a 2nd touchdown of the game. Kicker Neil Rackers made the extra point and restored Arizona's 14-point lead. While the Packers had the ball, the third quarter ended and the fourth quarter began. Less than 1 minute into the fourth quarter, the Packers had a 4th down and 5. They decided to go for it, and Aaron Rodgers found James Jones, who ran it into the end zone. The offenses were trading points, while it seemed the defenses couldn't stop anything. For the Cardinals, Kurt Warner had only thrown 2 incompletions and 4 touchdowns, and Rodgers has thrown 3 touchdowns. The next drive, though, there was finally a stop, as the Cardinals would punt for the first time all game. On the first play back with the ball, Aaron Rodgers found a wide-open Jermichael Finley, who took the ball 38 yards all the way down to the Cardinals' 29-yard line. The very next play, Rodgers found Donald Driver, who got down to the Cardinals' 1-yard line. And the play after that, Rodgers handed it off to John Kuhn, who capped off a 3-play touchdown drive with a 1-yard run. Mason Crosby made the extra point, and for the first time, the game was tied. The next drive, the Cardinals had a lot of short plays, running down the clock, until Kurt Warner took a shot for wide receiver Steve Breston, who made the catch and got the Cardinals to the 20-yard line. 2 plays later, Warner found Breston again, this time for a touchdown, and with just under 5 minutes left in the game, the Cardinals had a 7-point lead. The Packers got the ball back, needing a touchdown. They had a few plays for short yards, and they had the ball on the 47-yard line. On the next play, Rodgers had pressure and just threw it to the sideline. The pass was caught by Greg Jennings, who somehow tapped his feet in bounds and gave the Packers a 1st down at the 25-yard line. The Packers got all the way down to the 11-yard line before the 2-minute warning rolled around. The next play, Rodgers found Spencer Habner, who turned it around and got into the end zone to tie the game at 45 points. After the kickoff, the Cardinals had 1 minute 45 seconds to win the game. The Cardinals were driving down the field, and in about 30 seconds, they were already at midfield. They got all the way down to the 17-yard line and set up a field goal from 35 yards out that would have won them the game with 14 seconds left. It was basically a chip shot for Neil Rackers, but he missed the kick to the left. The Packers let the clock run out, and the game went to overtime. Green Bay won the coin toss and elected to receive. On the first play of overtime, Rodgers threw a deep ball to Greg Jennings, who was wide open, but Rodgers' pass wasn't on target and it was incomplete. The Packers could have won the game on that play, but instead they would need to try again. After a penalty and a 15-yard completion, the Packers had 3rd down and 5. On the play, Rodgers had pressure, and when he tried to throw, he was strip-sacked by Michael Adams. Carlos Dansby recovered the fumble and ran it in for a touchdown. The Cardinals won the game on that play with a final score of 51-45. Both teams had the opportunity to win the game late, with the Cardinals missing the field goal and Rodgers missing Greg Jennings. It was the highest-scoring game in playoff history with 96 points, 1,024 total yards, and 62 first downs. It was one of the best playoff games in NFL history, and maybe even one of the best games of all time. And that's going to be about it. I'm planning on doing more of these videos in the future, so if you have a suggestion for another game you want me to do, please tell me in the comment section below. Don't forget to leave a like, and if you're new, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching Turn Back the Clock, and I'll see you guys next time.